Welcome to episode number 9 of the Wheels and Beyond podcast. I'm your host, Ben Durham, and today we have Holly Evans joining us as our guest. We are here at Blackfriars Park in London, Canada, sitting on some plastic kids' seats while Holly's children play nearby. Holly and her husband Colin live in Old North with their 4 daughters and family dog. They've got their hands full with twins who are 3 years old, a 5-year-old, and a 10-year-old. Holly is a stay-at-home mom who also works as a freelance photographer and is a retired horse trainer. Today we'll be chatting about how their lifestyle has dramatically changed ever since they got rid of their land yacht of an SUV and instead downsized to a van and an Urban Arrow cargo bike. Now, this bike is their family's first cargo bike in the past 2 years, clocking in at around 10,000 kilometers on the odometer. It's replaced their luxury SUV and has truly become a luxury vehicle in its own way. And Holly loves how this sparks conversations with people from all walks of life about how feasible it is to live car-lite, even with kids, and how biking in all seasons offers a level of freedom that's hard to match. So let's jump in right as we're chatting about how early she wakes up. You mentioned earlier that you wake up at 4.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit more about that? And then we'll get into who you are.
Okay. So I get up super early. I am a full-time parent, which means that when they wake up, my clock starts with them. But I haven't really given up on my own self, I guess, in that. So I do competitive CrossFit as my sort of side gig. So I usually try and get to the gym for 2 hours every morning before the kids wake up. And that includes sort of the 10-kilometer bike ride there and the 10-kilometer bike ride home. So we start our days pretty early.
Okay. Now, you don't have to deal with... Oh, there goes a big truck.
Reminds me of why I like bikes.
So when you say 10 kilometers one way and on the way back, so you have like an electric cargo bike, which is an Urban Arrow.
Yep.
How much assist do you use on the way there and back?
So on the way there is completely up a hill because I'm starting in Old North and I'm finishing sort of on the top of Sarnia. So I use a lot of e-assist on the way there. Mostly I'm really tired too. And then on the way home, I use almost no e-assist because it's completely downhill.
There we go. So kind of to your advantage.
Yes.
You get the warm-up in on the way to the gym.
Actually, and that's a big reason why I started using it on the way to the gym. Initially, when we got the bike, I wasn't using it that early in the morning, but I herniated 2 discs in my back and had spinal stenosis. And it was what I found warmed me up the best was riding the bike there and riding the bike home. Actually was relieving a ton of my back pain because if I was just sitting in the car, it was excruciating.
That makes a lot of sense. And by the time you get there, you're like, ow. And also, I'm not warmed up.
Yeah. It's actually a time saver in a lot of ways because by the time I show up, I'm good to go.
There we go. So now that we have that nice intro that wasn't even an intro, I got so distracted immediately. Who are you?
I am Holly Evans, and I am a local here in London, and I'm a mom. That's kind of the gist of what I'm doing right now.
Awesome. This is good. Moms are crucial to momming. So.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Like, what was your journey with biking? Like, you have a cargo bike now. You're seen in the community as an avid, not even avid cyclist, right? You're a utility cyclist. So.
Yeah. We sort of joke that I'm in a lot of like magazines and newspapers and calendars. And the joke in our house is I don't often do this, but you can take our picture today because we've done so much and been featured in so many things. But it has really just come about sort of by accident. I started like all kids riding a bike, I think, when I was little, like a toddler probably. And I lived in a fairly active family growing up. Both my parents were competitive runners. So cycling, running, being outdoors was all sort of a part of life. I rode a bike a lot. I was a competitive horseback rider. So I was a horse trainer. That was my job before being a mom. And getting around the horse show grounds is all done by bicycle. And from there, I kind of had a break when I had the kids. And my husband, for Mother's Day one year, bought me the most beautiful blue bike, which you would see if you watch the footage in my garage that's hanging up there. Her name is Bluebell. And that was kind of to get me back into cycling when we moved off the farm and into the city.
And what type was that?
Oh, I don't even
Is it
know.
a road bike or a...
No, she's just a cruiser. She's like, she looks like a Dutch cruiser bike. She's baby blue. She's from the London Bicycle Cafe.
Of
She's
course.
not fat tire, but she's larger tire than average. And I love her. And anytime I don't have the kids, I always take Bluebell out.
Does it have a blue bell?
No.
I had to ask.
In hindsight, yeah.
All right, so now we're going to be spray painting a bell or getting a blue bell for
Yeah.
you. Okay, so we have how you got into biking, but the next phase was, so you got blue bell.
Yeah.
And then can you elaborate on what happened next?
Yeah. Then we were living in the city. COVID happened. We decided to have one more child, which was twins. So then 4 children happened, and we bought a Yukon XL SUV, and it was awful. And we tried to sort of live this life where we had this monster-sized SUV, and it wasn't really who either my husband and I were. It was miserable. It was hard to park. It was an absolute fortune in gas. And nobody liked getting in the car. We didn't like taking it anywhere. And we sort of thought about how can we do this better? And actually we thought, see giant trucks everywhere. We thought we would go to a hybrid vehicle. And so we were looking at going to a hybrid vehicle. And then in that conversation, it was, well, doesn't it make more sense to get a gas vehicle, but go completely manual while in the city? And so we bought a bike.
And I have to ask, because like the Yukon XL, very massive, monstrosity of
It's
a vehicle.
monstrosity, yeah.
Why did you choose that over a van initially?
Pulls a horse trailer.
Okay,
Yeah.
Okay, that is fair.
Yeah, so we had the pickup truck. The pickup truck, you can't get 4 car seats in it. And we had the twins. So we got the Yukon, in theory, to pull a horse trailer. And we weren't pulling the horse trailer very much because COVID happened.
Interesting.
And it stopped us traveling with the horses.
And so now that COVID is not COVID-y,
Yeah.
are you going to be, I don't know, renting? Or do you need to do the horse trailer? How's that going? Or
We don't know yet.
okay.
As of right now, my focus really is the kids. I've stopped competing at an international level, so getting around North America is not as big of a thing. And our priorities have shifted a lot. I think, we've learned a lot more about the climate crisis. We've learned about our sort of moral values within that, and as well as with our family. And just it's not aligning with who we are now, where maybe who we were 10 years ago. And so it's not a big priority to be shipping horses here, there, and everywhere for the glory of jumping horses over objects at the moment.
And so when you made that switch, what was the few months like? So you ended up prepping, you got the cargo bike, and then you sold the Yukon, or how did that swap go over the few months?
Oh, we did it really fast. So we found a van that allowed us to afford the cargo bike. And so that was a big project, was sort of that 2 months where we looked at van after van after van until we could find one that could do the job we wanted, but would free up enough finances that we could buy a cargo bike. And our thing was, we don't want to finance anything. So if we don't have the cash, we can't do it. So we went through that. And then once we did the trade over, it was like instant. We said we were going to take the bike in the city and the van outside of the city. And I couldn't really wrap my head around it initially of like, how is this going to look? But when you start biking, it's addictive. And even to do like a short trip when I'd be like, oh, I got to get the kids to the doctor, I'm just going to take the car for this, to sit in traffic and to be in those situations, the hairs on my arms would stand up. I would get just angry and frustrated. And I was like, I cannot not ride my bike somewhere. And we haven't really looked back.
Okay, so we were on our ride along just to get to here from your house.
Yeah.
And I was asking, whose bike is it really? And
it's mine, for sure. I have the kids most of the time, so I use it most of the time. But if Colin is running late for work, or if he helps me with the kids in the morning, then he can take it because you get to where you're going a heck of a lot faster.
Interesting. And so you're going from, well, in his case, he's going from Old North down to...
Usually it would be Vic if he's gonna steal it from me.
And for those of you listening, Victoria Hospital.
Yes, so that's Victoria Hospital.
Yeah. That's South London, would you classify it as?
It's definitely South London. It's far.
And do you know how many kilometers that is?
Ooh,
I don't.
12 from our house, maybe?
Sounds right. I was going to actually go with 8 or something. But
8 maybe. I don't
know. Jinx. So he steals that.
Yeah.
Have you, and maybe this is questions for him on a future podcast, but have you figured out his locking procedure at Vic? Because those are long shifts, right?
I think they have a cage. I'm pretty sure, at UH, I know there's a cage, so they can take it in there. I don't know. I guess I should find out, because if he lost my bike, I would be pretty annoyed. And he has quite the history of using the bike and breaking it, which is a whole other story. But
I was going to do a podcast with him, I think 2 months ago, and a ride along. However, at that point, I feel like the ride along would have not worked because I heard that something.
Yeah, I backed over him while on the bike, and he got very lucky because he was pinned underneath it, and it was the box of the bike that protected him.
He's not. The bike was pinned, or he was?
No, he was pinned under the bike, and it was actually the box that prevented the whole part from pinning him down. So he had a big sort of hole in his leg, but that was it. And
just a hole in the leg. Okay,
you know what? Compared to dying, that was a pretty big.
Yeah, that's, comparison, but I did not realize it was that, wow, okay.
Actually,
that's a whole story. Okay, go on, sorry. Yeah.
That might have to be cut out because I don't know if we signed an NDA.
Right. Is this a new one, or did they repair it? Or
this is repaired, but it's a new box, new piping, but it's the same, essentially, seat and handles. But everything else has been replaced. Locks has been replaced. So the key even broke in it. They put so much force at the...
I'll have to make this work with the edit because you can't talk about this because it was an organization that had a truck and it backed into Colin? Can you kind of go into that?
Yeah, so they were essentially, you should have somebody come out of the vehicle when it's going backwards. And that's one of the laws about this type of vehicle. And they didn't. And they went backwards and they didn't see the bicycle. So he tried to get out of the way and he got pinned underneath it into a curb. And so this bicycle, the frame has been replaced and the entire box has actually been replaced. Front tire is new and the locking system is all new. And it's about a month old, I guess, now.
So no, that is just interesting here. I think that is a very unique story. I would hope. So actually that might lead to safety talk.
Yeah.
As a mom.
Yeah.
How do you feel on the roads?
It's a good question. So as far as riding the bike, I feel extremely safe. When I was learning to ride it, I did lie it down a couple times. And the good news is the kids do not fall out of it. Those seatbelts are amazing. They don't get their little hands stuck under it or anything like that. So that's all good news. I didn't ever drop it at speeds. That was mostly just me standing still and then tipping over, which is a bit of the learning curve with it. But that was all done in the first week. But on the roads, I would say anything with a protected bike lane, I feel super safe. So if I'm taking Colborne, Dundas, I feel always good there. TVP obviously feels really good. There are some spots where, and it might not be the most legal, but I'll pop onto the sidewalk if I'm feeling like there's a lot of traffic. There was a big accident on Richmond the other day, so there's a lot of cars even on our own street where they were all being diverted and they were kind of everywhere and chaotic, and I just took the sidewalk up and sort of thought, better safe than sorry, and if I get a ticket, I get a ticket. But
yeah, that's at that point. How many kids did you have in there, or was it just you? Or
I had 3 kids with me.
Okay, so I feel like, officer, are you serious right now?
Yeah,
is the response to that.
I've never had a policeman who said you can't be here in this moment. I sometimes on Sarnia Road, I'll take it sometimes, and even though there is a painted bike lane, depending on the amount of traffic, because they can get going, especially early in the morning, 90 up there, I'll take the sidewalk. But if there's a pedestrian, obviously I will stop and the pedestrian will go past. But in those circumstances, I think it's just safer to to take the sidewalks.
Yeah, it's thoughts on painted bike lanes. How about that?
Useless, completely useless. And when they're either Uber Eats like lanes or how they have them mixed with the bike lanes. So bus lanes. So you're going up the painted bike lane and then a bus stops in front of you and you're sort of stuck with these cars coming at like 90 up behind you, or they use them as the right-hand turn lane. That's always a favorite of mine. And then honk at you as you're in the bike lane because it's their personal right-hand turning lane. I would rather have no painted bike lane so that I can actually move over into the center of a lane than a painted bike lane that sort of forces me into what I feel is often an unsafe situation.
Yeah, and that's about like visibility.
Well, as far as visibility, I'm not sure how you can miss a boat. It's like a canoe going up the street. So, we hear all these things about, well, do they have reflective gear? How bright are their helmets? How bright are their coats? But it's a boat, and I will often get this look from people like, "Oh, I didn't see you there."
How?
Yeah,
like,
it looks like I'm in a parade.
Yep. I have to divert from safety for a second because you said boat, and for Halloween, you want to?
Oh yeah, for Halloween last year we did dress up the bike as a Viking boat. This year I'm not going to give any information, but I'm sure the bike will also be incognito and part of the family Halloween costume, and I hope that can sort of stay for as long as the kids will allow us to participate in Halloween with them.
I feel like it's just what cool parents do. Like, that's so cool.
I hope they look back with fond memories of what we did and not just complete embarrassment. Although a little part of me hopes for a little bit of embarrassment too, because that is the job of a parent, I think.
I think, we don't have kids, but I think there's that age where you get embarrassed by everything your parents do. And then after in like maybe the later 20s, you start appreciating it.
Yeah, so, I think that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, luckily my 10-year-old, she's still pretty on board. But I feel like the years are coming up soon where she's going to be like, Mom, please no.
Mom, no. Absolutely not. She's like, okay. Oh, those times are done.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just had to divert because you said boat. I'm like, well, actually.
It was a boat, yeah.
An actual boat. That was pretty cool to see. I'll get a picture from you. I'll put it on the video portion of this because it's just so fun. Yeah. All right, so we're coming to a close here. So just finishing on that safety. So the protected bike lanes, are there any protected bike lanes that you find are almost too narrow for that bike?
Depends if it's garbage day or not.
Right.
That's really like my honest answer is garbage day is often like, but I just have reframed it in my head to I'm a good Samaritan and I stop every 30 feet and I just move people's garbages and I put them up and I put them back on their front lawns and I give myself sort of like karma points for doing it. Yeah, exactly. And so if I can sort of reframe it of I'm a good person and I'm helping out the people in our neighborhood and I do that, then I am okay with it.
I have something for you. An idea. Someone, I believe it was in Calgary, put a plow on the front. And that's for the winter.
Oh.
And so in this case, it would not be the most good Samaritan act. You just put the plow on for those days.
Through, yeah.
Just plow through the garbage.
No, I don't know if that works with the same, like I'm getting positive karma points. I'm a good person today. In the winter, it might work. Although this winter was so warm that we didn't really have the same issue with snow overflowing into the bike lane.
Yep. Actually, speaking of winter, so they're playing in the background. In the winter, do you have a cover for this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we definitely have a cover. Obviously not a cover for me, but a cover for the kids. And it's warm in there. Like, it's surprising.
Nice and toasty. I mean, so even with one, do you ever go with just one? One kiddo? Yeah.
Oh, is that an option? No.
So it's 3.
Often 4.
Often 4?
Yeah.
Okay. So it probably gets really hot in there, actually.
Yeah. Like, they all take their coats off, and they often complain that I make them wear their coats in there.
Have to put it on top, have like a strap to
or
just keep
they
all the...
roll up the windows, and I'm like, it's really cold, guys. They're like, no, windows up. I'm like, oh, okay. Oh, okay.
Is that a strawberry?
It's a strawberry.
You got a strawberry rock.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Also, for context, we are at a playground right now.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay, well, we'll be wrapping up very shortly because water is now being demanded of us, which is very reasonable. Okay, so for the winter, is very warm for the kids. That was a question. So that's really cool to hear.
And I've had some people like when we were in the London Free Press and I was riding it like in the late fall comment on how my children were freezing. I can assure you they were not. And I've also ridden in the front quite a bit. Like when Colin and I go out, we use it for date nights. I will sit in the front, sometimes put, a glass of wine and my little travel mug there. And it is not cold at all. It's super warm with the cover on.
That is awesome to hear. Because, I was wondering how the front was. Because, okay, as the driver of it or the pedaler, you get warmed up
you generate
too, right?
Heat, yeah.
Oh, yeah. I always say to people who are frost biking, it's actually like the e-bikes are really great air conditioners. Because in the winter and in the summer, you're able to regulate your temperature.
Yeah.
Because you're just generating so much heat.
You generate heat, yeah. The most important thing I would say to stay warm in the winter is pogies. As long as your hands are warm, you're warm. It's when your knuckles are cold, everything is cold.
Yep.
But you generate enough heat to keep everything else warm.
What about your toes?
Oh, I've never had problems with my toes.
Okay, there we go. What type of boots do you wear? This is like a full wardrobe. Like, hey, what do you wear?
Trying to think of what kind of boots I wear in the winter.
Yeah, because it's summer right now. So
yeah. Strawberry. She took your favorite strawberry? Yeah. That is tragic.
Do you have the backup strawberry?
I just think matters into her own self. Leighton, maybe you can give it back. Thank you. No, in the winter, I usually wear hiking boots. Just like generic hiking boots.
Yeah. Background noise. Okay, so hiking boots. But the pogies are something, so for those of you that don't know, they're basically handlebar, not
mittens.
wrappers. Yeah, mittens.
Like big fat mittens. Yeah, boxing gloves and your handlebars.
And they stay on the handlebars.
Yeah.
And that's actually something Natalia and I have not tried.
Oh.
And so we're always like, we have to use like the hottie things or whatever. And it's like, we don't want to. So I think that's this year's thing. I think you've convinced us.
You don't lose them. So like I have gloves that I wear, like bike gloves, but I often lose a glove, which is surprising because anybody who knows me, I'm very particular with stuff where stuff goes. So to lose my own glove would just drive me bananas, but it happens. But because they stay on your bike, they're always there. And it's not like you can go somewhere and then be riding home at night and then be like, oh, I wish I had gloves with me, because they are always there.
So when it hits like -20, something like that, which is not the average. That is actually...
Yeah, I was going to say.
Like usually...
The last time it's been there.
Yeah, it's only there for a few days, tops. Because we're in southwestern Ontario. But what type of... Okay, I have to ask because we're on this topic, but how thin of gloves do you wear? Because you have the pogies, they really help.
Yeah.
I've heard.
They're pretty thin. Like they're a brand for biking. I can't remember the brand off the top of my head. They're not big woolly mittens. I would say they're fairly thin, and the pogies are really that is all the difference.
Noted. I think you've convinced Natalia, who is going to hear this and be like, we're getting them like as of hearing
you need
this.
them yesterday.
Yeah. Because we try the biggest mittens and they just don't work.
No, it's No. Well, and it gets annoying when you have mittens to change your gears and like to use your brakes and all that. So,
it's all of those things. Fully agree.
Yeah.
All right. So we covered winter. Totally not on this list of things, but
winter happens. It's coming for us.
The reason I asked about that was actually to do with the studded tires, and that's something I encourage, even if we get mild winters, because ice, right?
Yeah, and the other thing is leaves, wet leaves.
Ooh.
I've had more almost wipeouts on wet leaves than I would say ice.
Interesting.
Mostly because you don't expect it. So you come around a corner and you just hit it the wrong way and it's a surprise.
True. Interesting. I think you encounter more wet leaves here because of the TBP. Because
that's probably true.
Because for us, it's like the black ice or something that just appears. It's like, oh. And then because we have such mild winters, we usually have one front studded tire on. And sometimes it's like, oh, I wish we had two studded tires. But for 95% of the time, like it avoids the wipeouts. So that's how we kind of handle the studded tires bit. And you just leave them all season, right?
No, I leave them. We get them on in like November and took them off, I want to say April, March. Like we go pretty long before we switch them out because, Canada, you don't know when that day is going to happen.
Exactly.
And we'd rather be with than without.
Yes, yeah, because you have precious cargo that
We
you're
have
hauling.
precious cargo.
Yep.
And it's a lot of weight. If you hit it the wrong way and you start leaning, it is a lot of weight to self-correct. Like, I'm pretty strong. Colin's pretty strong, but that's a lot.
Fair.
A lot leaning.
Yeah, exactly. For us, we only have, just because of how studded tires work with the 27.5-inch tires, we only have the huge knobby ones, which is really irritating because we don't want that. We're on the road all the time. And you guys get pretty slick tires with the studs, so I'm jealous.
Yeah, you should be. Especially with the e-assist and those studded tires, you're good.
All right, so let's close this up. I guess before I close it up, do you have any questions or anything that really pops to mind that, I don't know, people listening, whether they're moms, new parents, this, that, or anyone, what do you usually say?
Yeah, I would just say, like, this lifestyle is so doable. And so many people say, I couldn't do it. And I think you would surprise yourself if you just start, because it is absolutely liberating and invigorating, and you get so much more out of life being outside of the car.
And you're able to go down to one car.
We were able to go down to one car, and it's been completely simple. We do rent a car every once in a blue moon if my husband has to go out of town. But even that, for 4 days, maybe in a year, the cost and it's just a wash.
Yeah, we have a non-existent fund that if it ever happened, which still has not happened, that both of us need a car. Absolutely need, because we cannot defer both of our things that need a car. Because we have one.
Yep.
We would Uber or rent a car.
Yeah.
And it still just hasn't happened. I always say just have $100 laying around just as an Uber fund.
Yeah.
And it's like, still hasn't happened. It's been years.
Yeah.
Like it's never happened.
It's amazing. Yep. It's amazing.
Yep. And so the one car is very possible, especially when your primary vehicle is an Urban Arrow.
An Urban Arrow, yeah. One car with 6 people.
As we close off this, I wanted to ask about securing your bike. And when Colin and I were on a panel together talking about e-bikes and how they change your lives, he was talking about when you ride downtown, you've actually started to develop a community.
My security system?
Yeah.
So I don't want to actually just call it that, because the relationships actually matter to me. And these are some really wonderful people that I've met that probably...
Oh, we have a helicopter incoming.
There's a helicopter, which is also exciting. One of the places that we sort of frequent is along Dundas. And we've developed these relationships more just on accident. People will come and talk to me and talk to the kids. And through those relationships that I've developed, I will often buy them a coffee or, just make friendly chat with people, and they look out for my kids and they look out for me and they look out for my bicycle. So if, say, I've gone into the library and I come out in 2 hours, I might have somebody come up to me and they will tell me, oh, I saw somebody looking at my bike, and I've said, that's a really nice lady who has that bike, just move along now. And I really appreciate that. And it's actually been some of the longer relationships I've had since moving back into the city, is because we do frequently these spaces and there's the same group of people who live close to them. But I really do trust that. I joke it's my $2 insurance, but it really isn't about insuring my bike. It's about just building relationships with the people around us. But it has been my $2 insurance plan of my inexpensive coffee.
And how do you? Yeah, exactly. And how do your actions impact your kids? As in, they see you doing this.
Oh my goodness! That's an incredible part, is to see that they don't judge people. They are empathetic to people. If they see somebody who is cold, instead of being fearful of them, they will suggest maybe giving them a blanket, or maybe, mommy, can we get this person a coffee? Or they simply say hi, and they don't go up to strangers. They know not to go up to strangers, but to not have this stigma attached to every single person that we meet is so important to me. And I think it's important to raising just good humans.
And the bikes are part of it because of that.
And the bikes are part of it. Yeah. We wouldn't have that same experience in the underground parking lot. I think I would actually be much more fearful of somebody coming up to us in an underground parking lot, for sure.
That is fair. And I'm not just trying to like wedge it in here. It literally is that you're parking on the sidewalk on Dundas. Because sometimes I'm like, oh, hey, like it's because of the bicycle. In this case, actually, though, like
No, it is. It really is. I wouldn't have these same relationships, and these people probably wouldn't come up and talk to me. And the fact that we have twins in this bicycle is always very interesting to people. And there are people that, I have red flags about, and you keep your eye on that. But for the most part, it's actually a really nice community that's out there.
Yeah, people are human. People are nice. Typically,
people. Yeah.
So I think that is a great ending to this. A great place to end this off. There's nothing else on your end, right?
No, thank you so much for coming and talking to me.
No problem.
And letting us share a little bit about our little lives.
Yes, thank you for suggesting this amazing studio setup here. Nice plastic table that is definitely...
My legs won't be able to bend tomorrow, but we're good for now. Good thing we have the bike ride home to loosen up again.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again very much, Holly.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.